Surely they can't be serious. Let's begin. Now look, I'm sure many of you, I was brought up in the sense that if you do wrong, you'll be punished for it, especially if you do something like damage someone's property or steal something, or even worse, do something to someone, you're more than likely to get put in prison for it, which is a very valuable deterrent for people not being a-holes, isn't it? And now obviously we've heard recently with the stories in the news, there's less prisons about nowadays or things like that, so they obviously want to do another form of punishment. But unfortunately this, what I'm about to tell you, is even worse than that. Because according to this article, it says that softer sentences for deprived criminals are to be considered by judges. I mean, that's absolutely mental, isn't it? Because let's face it, whatever the crime was, the impact to the victim will still be basically the same. So I think for someone to get off just because they're a little bit deprived or didn't get as many Mars bars when they were younger than what the rest of us did should not have an impact on whatever crime they may or may not commit. And we can just imagine it, especially if criminals try to put in all sorts of claims saying they're deprived for whatever reason. I mean, for example, someone's in the dock charged with an armed robbery or maybe a murder or whatever, about to get 20 years to life, and then suddenly, I've been deprived! I can only afford single-sheeted toilet paper, and my clothes smell so much they can walk to the washing machine by themselves. I mean, admittedly, they probably wouldn't use that excuse, but whatever impact that has on the sentence really shouldn't, in my opinion, even if, especially if it's reduced by half or something like that. But anyway, the partially good news is the Sentencing Council who dream up these new guidelines have admitted that their new guidelines, let's just say, have not been having a good reception. But do say, though, that they have found mitigating factors for the first time, and these factors apparently relate to various disadvantages that courts should take into an account before passing sentences. And the new guidelines apparently will be on difficult or deprived backgrounds or personal circumstances, including poverty, low educational attainment, discrimination and insecure accommodation. Which, let's face it, with the last one will make me think if the criminal will go, I just wanted to see how secure your house was, eh? Well, let's face it, that's probably not what it actually means. The council guidelines came into effect on Monday despite warnings from Lord Chancellor and Justice Secretary Alan Chalk, who argued that the guidance was patronising and inaccurate. He added it risked making poor schooling and poverty excuses for criminals to break the law, and I personally think he's right. I mean, how long will it actually be before all the solicitors out there say to their clients, well, you know, you could get off with this, or maybe even a lighter sentence if you say something like, I know you only got an E for English in your GCSEs, despite, of course, the mountain of evidence around, like the dead body on the floor and your fingerprints on the knife. Then again, hopefully this will not apply to crimes serious such as rape or murder or anything like that, but something tells me that it'll basically apply to all crimes, although hopefully I am wrong. It says concerns also raised during the consultation phase that the new sentencing guidelines could mean better off middle class offenders from secure households are unfairly disadvantaged by being slapped with harsher penalties for the same offence. It is also noted that many people from deprived backgrounds do not become offenders. Well, I'm glad they clarified that, because let's face it, I, like many of you, was not born with a silver spoon shoved up my bum. And hopefully, like many of you, I don't see why my upbringing, whether it was deprived or not, should have any impact on any crime I would ever commit in the future, which I'd just like to point out won't be any crime at all, because I'm a good boy. But anyway, the blue-collar Conservatives, though, a group apparently founded by the Minister for Common Sense, Esther McVey, told the council that we believe this is extremely patronising, not least to law-abiding working-class communities. And I personally agree with her, and I'm sure you all do as well. Often, though, it is actually those who come from the poorest communities who become the victims of the crimes in these cases. Low attainment and poverty are not excuses to commit crimes, and why can't the sentencing councils see that is what more than likely people will think, oh yeah, I could get away with that if I say this, and then do those crimes or even worse in the future. I mean, there's just surely no deterrent. In fact, thinking about it, surely removing deterrents, because let's face it, the lack of prisons, and now this, when really they should be building new prisons and becoming a bit more harsher in my opinion. The Sentencing Council itself conceded that judges and magistrates privately consulted over the guidelines had been predominantly negative or neutral, and many said they already took such factors into account anyway. Well, not on the level I'm guessing that these people would have wanted them to, and let's face it, it could cause massive problems, couldn't it? However, strangely though, the body unfortunately opted to proceed with the plans, claiming that unambiguously detailing mitigating factors would mean that they were applied in a consistent and appropriate way and improve transparency and fairness. Well, actually, I don't think the victims would see that, but that's just me, I guess, eh? And as such, now judges and magistrates have apparently therefore been told to consider 12 factors of disadvantage in ascertaining an offender's responsibility for a crime, and they've also been told to determine how these factors bear on criminals' behaviour and the impact of any sentence might have on them. So just what are they then? Well, apparently negative experience of authority, experience of offended by family members, in early life, and challenges around the misuse of drugs and alcohol are all factors judges have been told to consider. So it just makes me wonder, therefore, how far a solicitor or whoever could stretch these mitigating factors. I mean, could it be something like, oh, my brother punched me in the balls when I was younger and therefore I just had to commit that robbery? Hopefully, though, that wouldn't actually be that far. But it says, however, being voluntarily drunk at the crime of an offence is an aggravating factor in sentencing. And Mr Chalk's response to the consultation seen by the Telegraph said the government is clear that so many of the examples of difficulty or deprivation that have been set out in the consultation, such as low educational attainment and poverty, ought not to be relied upon as excuses to commit crimes. Well, hopefully at least someone will listen to this and actually realise it probably wasn't such a good idea. But what have they said about it? Well, apparently a spokesman said the Sentencing Council, the guidance was worded to balance between drawing court's attention to potentially relevant considerations without being over prescriptive. Well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see how this all plays out, eh? Maybe who knows, if too many people take the pee, they might have a little rethink on all this, eh?